John Huber. We're here with RJ Dussart. We're doing a little visit. He's going up to Escanaba to look at knives. So he was on the way here, said stop in. He gets to play delivery boy for a friend of ours to take one of the newer triggers out. At any rate, RJ has been a longtime supporter of Huber triggers. Why? Because they work for him. What I'd like to do is, out of his words, what he finds is the best advantage for shooters to keep them on target. RJ.
I grew up on two-stage triggers. I started off with an AW, so it's inherently a military two-stage trigger. When I switched to the 700 footprint, I looked John up at SHOT Show, and we hooked up and talked, and we've been together now for, 5 or 6 years probably. So what I like about a two-stage trigger is once you get on the gun, you can get your finger so that the trigger shoe is in the middle of your pad. So that's where you could have the lightest feel for your trigger. And so I like to be able to get on that trigger, maybe do the take up a couple times, make sure my finger's in the right part of that pad. When I get on target, I can come to that wall, and I know when that trigger's going to break. So that's the advantage that I see of the two-stage trigger.
No, I try and make them shorter than your perceptions of knowing when you moved your finger. So I do the best I can with mathematics, but what I find is that tie to time. Most people think from bang to target, and we need to get them to think from acquire to fire, because that's where the changes in you are. Every match you go to, every hunting situation, every gun you pick up, it's all different. There's only one thing that's consistent in all those situations, and that's you, the shooter. So I try and make it as simple as possible, and you need to be able to translate in a time sense as you're making your shots. The trigger makes that happen better.
When we're shooting, say, offhand, for example, and like I said, I can get my finger in the right spot with that first stage. I get that wobble, try to get a figure eight or try to move the crosshairs onto the target. It's almost subconscious. So as you're coming onto the target, you're thinking trigger, trigger, trigger. As you're coming onto the edge of the target, quick lock time, gun goes off, should hit the center of the target. So, I mean, I've only shot Huber triggers, so I love Huber triggers. I think the two-stage is a huge advantage for experienced shooters as well as new shooters. So.
Have you ever taken it out into the long-range realm? I look at people's accuracy gets better, like from, say, 1 minute of angle accuracy to a quarter minute of angle accuracy. But if they do their time-based stuff, they can shoot extremely long ranges at arc seconds of angles of accuracy. And to me, that's here.
It is. I mean, it's a little bit mental, it's a little bit accuracy. We've taken the 6.5, 260s out to a mile with 8-inch targets. So, I mean, that's 1 MOA out to a mile. The other huge advantage I see is the enclosure of the trigger. So this trigger is enclosed. So we'll shoot in very sandy, very dirty, very silt-type, fine dust environments. And I see people with triggers going down almost by the stage. You got 12 people in your stage and 8 people's triggers went down. They've got compressed air and I don't know what you use on your cigarette lighters, but just squirting crazy stuff in their triggers to try to keep them clean, where Huber triggers just keep running. So I've never had any trouble with at a match, in the middle of a match with the Huber trigger going down. I've never seen one go down.
I try and keep them as tight as I can. There's different closure points, and you won't find a window. There's no exposed points to look into the trigger. It's completely encased. Very durable. Tested these out to 100,000 shots. 100,000 shots, you're going to be changing barrels a lot.
Yeah, it's 10 or 20 barrels. So the other thing John's done, he's come out with a flat trigger. So that's something that's kind of new this year or last year in the competitive market. So the flat trigger is something we like. again, it goes to feel. I'm only touching, you know, a tenth or 2/10 of this trigger now instead of the entire trigger covering my finger. So again, it just goes to a feel thing. I feel like I'm touching less of that trigger. The less I touch the trigger, the less I'm going to move it left or right. So I guess I've got only 6 of these out right now, but John's going to be promoting these in the future, and this is going to be an option.